Alright, so right now I have a model, my demonstrator. It's already set up, and I'm going to just clear the setup and I'm going to start a new one from scratch. So basically, all we do here is we get out of that menu, go back, and basically all you do is rotate the wheel. It brings up the menus. You go down to Setup Tools, go to New Plane Wizard, and here you'll see all of the different options you have for setting up an airplane. So by this being a plane with two aileron, an aileron, rudder, and elevator, you would select standard. But if you have another type of plane like the larger planes with two elevator that runs off of two elevator servos, then this is the setup that you would use for that type of plane. So you'd use standard two elevator. Then you come over and you could have standard with flaps. They have a option for VTOL planes, VTOL with flaps, delta wings with flaps. So basically when you go and you set yours up for the first time, depending on the plane, you just select the actual, like, what type of plane it is that you'll be, setting up. So in this case, standard. So
Motor off.
now that the motor off switch is activated, basically it kills the throttle signal. Like, the motor won't spin up or anything like that. It's always on this switch. So you scroll over to load values and start new setup. At this point, the unit is being reset. So I'll show you the servo connections and all that. So here, like the way I do it, I have aileron 3 for, channel 3 right here. Channel 2 would be aileron 2. Channel 1 is the elevator, and then next to that is the tail, which is the rudder. And all the way in the corner there you have ESC. So those are your main connections. The rest of this is just the wiring for the receiver, and the other one to the left of that, that's for the redundant power supply. Well, the BEC power supply coming off of the ESC, which is a Hobby Wing 100 amp. So there's that. Those are the connections. It's pretty simple. And that's the receiver there. Just put everything in there. Like, the thing about these, like, you want it to be in the center of the plane. So I guess so that the gyro, like, when it is active, it has a good, like, reference point or center point. So that's where I set it up. Pretty sure you can do it, like, with the gyro off to the side, but I think it just looked better in the center there. So, alright. So, first thing you're going to do is choose the orientation of the flybarless unit or the gyro, which that's what this is. That's what this unit is. So, on this one, it's the V facing up, wires facing to the rear. So you select that, scroll over, go to next. Now we're going to set up the elevator. Now what you'll notice on here, they actually show you a picture of the actual picture of the elevator, and it moves in a direction that it should be moving. So right now, like when you pull back on the elevator, that picture actually shows the direction that that surface should be traveling. But on a plane, it's not going the right way. So what you do, you simply scroll over, go to direction, click on it, reverse, and now you have an elevator that's traveling in the correct direction. Next, you're going to want to do your sub trim. So you go down to center, and same with everything else. It's like you just rotate it and you get it into the position that you want. So I'm gonna put the camera on the actual elevator surface, and we're gonna just rotate this dial until the elevator is centered. We'll just do a real drastic change there. See, that's like 35%, well, positive 35% elevator. But you come back the opposite direction, and we're at about let's see, minus 23, and that looks pretty level. Good enough, at least. So now that that's that, next we do our endpoints. So for this part, you basically just pull back on the elevator, and you rotate the dial until you get the desired amount of throw. So that's maxed out. Do it again for the forward elevator, or down elevator. And you just go until it stops. And that's it. The elevator is all set up. So I normally, on this plane, like I've already set it up before, so it's pretty much where I had it before, and before doing a reset on it. So it's maxed out at 120 and 120. So like pull and push, that would be the equivalent of, like, say if you're flying Spectrum where they tell you it's travel adjust, or you know, Futaba where it's endpoints, that's the same thing. So there's that. Next we set up the rudder, which is pretty much the same thing. You check the direction, make sure it's traveling in the correct direction. And it is. And the other thing is you want to center it. So go ahead and center the elevator. Yeah, sorry, I'm doing this with one hand, so the other hand on the transmitter. Alright, so that's center. And next we're going to adjust the travel. So I know from the previous setup this was at 120, and the right hand side was at 106. So I probably should adjust my linkages and all that to get the correct amount of throttle. Okay, so there's that. And with all of the surfaces on here, like with the radio, it tells you the direction that it needs to be traveling in so that you don't have any issues when you go and do your maiden flight or anything like that. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the easiest setup you'd ever want to do, like as far as a plane goes. So now that that's all set up, we move on to the aileron. So here we do our centering of the surface. So there we go. Bring that on down, and you'll actually see this coming on down into level. And about right there is good. And I know, like from prior setups, this was always maxed out. Really all I'm doing is setting the center points. That's it. So, and we do the same thing for the left side aileron. We just get it leveled. And come over here, max that out. Come over here, max this out. Okay, so that's all set. Now, this setting here, I'm not 100% sure like what it does and how to really use it, so I haven't really bothered with it. I've just left that alone. Like supposedly it's there to reduce the throw on the downward side. Like I guess if one side had more throw than the other, it's a way to balance it out. But I'm not 100% sure how to use it, so I don't use it. So that's part of the reason why I've been maxing out all of the services. So, and here's the motor setup. So basically we're in motor off, and you would do this similar to how you would do a normal ESC. Like it already knows the endpoints. So basically at 4.5% on this ESC is when the motor will engage. So I set that there. Throttle, max it out. It's going the correct direction. Right now it's in motor off.
Motor idle. Motor on.
So we're in motor run. Motor runs. Yeah, safety first. Take the prop off before you do any of this type of stuff, especially indoors, you know. So there's that. And here's where we go and name the model. So go here, just put the name in. And just put demo in here. And that's it. That's full setup. This plane's technically ready to fly. The only other thing that would need to be done is to set up your expo. And I use a lot of expo on this plane. Like, this thing, it's pretty fast. But how you do that is you go to the main menu, and here you have aileron, elevator, rudder. So go to aileron, set your expo, and I crank this sucker up. Like, I'm running like 90% expo on here because the way this system is designed.
Receiver 6.1 volt. Bank 2.
There's like very low latency. So basically every model that you use on Vcontrol is going to feel very slippery. Like, it's going to give you a more connected feel to whatever model it is.
Receiver 6.1 volt. Bank 3.
And what you're hearing right now is the bank switch. Like, whenever you, like, well, the way I have mine set up, like, it's calling out which bank you're in. And like, the way that's designed, well, programmed, is basically you can change like the model characteristics and all that from one like a switch. So what that means is basically, you know,
receiver 6.1 volt. Bank 1.
Bank 1 can be, you know, nice and tame and, you know, docile flying and stuff like that. And then you can use Bank 2 when you want to kick it up a little more. And you can use Bank 3 when you just want to go crazy with it. And everything is fully adjustable. So there's the expo. And here's the gain settings for the for the gyro if you choose to use it. Like, right now I'm in Bank 1 and that's set to 0, but in Bank 2 you have 30% gain. And agility is basically your rates, like how fast you want it to spin and all that crazy stuff, and that applies to both elevator, aileron, and rudder. So you can make those changes like directly from the radio with no issues. So, but that's pretty much it. And it's pretty easy to, you know, set up and all that. There's a couple of expert menus and stuff that, like, I'm not 100% sure on. I haven't really gotten into them just yet. But there's this one other menu, like for the throttle, and what it is, this one is very important, and it's the gain reduction to keep the model from like oscillating at high speeds. Like, you want the gain to be pretty low, almost, you know, no gain whatsoever when you're traveling at high speed. So what this is going to do is basically you crank this number up, and the faster the model travels, the less gain it applies to the surfaces, only when the gyro is on. So but yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, those are all the menus there. Like, here's the aileron menu, you have your expo, gain, agility. That's basically your travel adjust, your endpoints, whatever radio you're normally using, that's what that basically means. So like this thing is maxed out at, 120% or whatever, and basically like where it's set right now, like basic, like standard setting, like it's only giving you 70% of that throw. 70% of whatever that throw is. Like, I don't have an angle gauge or anything, so I can't really tell you. But basically, it's 70%. So if you crank it up to 100, it's going to be the full, like, amount of throw on each surface that's available for that particular parameter. So what else? Also, another thing, you all may have noticed there's no trim tabs on this radio at all, anywhere. And what happens is when you go out for your first flight, you have what is called auto trim. Right now, there's no trim in here at all. What you do is you get it up in the air, you get it into level flight, and you hold this button here, and that sets your trim. So you hold it, get it level, and that's it. You're trimmed out and you're ready to go. No hunting around for switches, hoping that you hit the right one, especially when you have those, radios with like 8+ channels or more, where you have multiple trim tabs and all that crazy stuff. Like, this basically eliminates all that. Like, you hit that button, you hold it for about 2 seconds or so, and that's it. Your trim is set. So, hope this explains some of the stuff, like, for you guys that are kind of curious about the Vcontrol and being able to use it with planes and stuff like that. Like me, I'm a heli guy, so this radio, it's like, it's second nature for me to use, but anybody could use it. So you just have to sit down and wrap your mind around how Mikado wants you to, like, do things, like set it up and whatnot. Like, it's not very hard at all. It's very easy if you ask me. So hope this helps someone. See you guys later.